one thing that I've heard talk about lately is two things basically, and I wonder if they're two different strategies, a part of the same. So one is a massive bombardment to take out the Islamic Republic, and the other is to have landings on the southern coast to train a kind of resistance army loyal to Pahlavi against the Islamic Republic. And so I'm wondering, the massive bombardment idea, is the idea to take out the Islamic Republic to such an extent that a mass uprising by the Iranian people would be able to finish the job, or is that considered impossible and arming the people and having a resistance army is absolutely necessary regardless?
Okay, so the bombing campaign across Iran and having an armed resistance in southern Iran, are you asking, are these two different plans that you're wondering if which one of them would work, or are you asking us that why are these necessary for an uprising of the Iranian people? Can you clarify?
So I sometimes hear talk about a massive bombardment that would be so thorough as to end them, and I wonder if you mean that uh,
Mm.
in
Okay.
such a literal way, that it would mean that the people could just make a final push and just, push over a kind of rotten wall or something,
Right.
or whether you mean that the bombardment is just part of a broader plan that involves an Iranian pro-Pahlavi army.
Okay. That. Thank you for clarifying. So here's the thing. Exactly what would lead to the Iranian people being able to do a successful uprising against the Islamic Republic, exactly what that's needed, um, cannot be calculated. However, what we do know is that it's very likely, not 100% sure, it's very likely that aerial bombardments of different assets of the Islamic Republic, both human assets and military assets, is not enough for the toppling of the Islamic Republic. Like, we do need the Iranian people to do something at some point. Given that there's not going to be any ground invasions by the Americans and Israelis, the only way that the Islamic Republic will fall is the Iranian people do an uprising. So anything that is designed to topple the Islamic Republic should be with the intention of finally getting to that point, right? So far, so good, right? So when it comes to aerial bombardments of the Islamic Republic, the way that helps, but is not enough, is might not be enough, is that it weakens the Islamic Republic. It weakens the way that it could defend itself, and it weakens the way that it could make money, right? And it weakens the way that it could make decisions, right? So if you do all of those three things, obviously the Iranian people would get closer to a point where they could topple the regime, right? If you weaken the Islamic Republic's ability to defend itself, that means Israelis and Americans could come take out more targets without much resistance. And if you take out more targets, especially economic targets, that means the Islamic Republic will have less funds to give to suppressing forces to massacre the Iranian people, right? And if you kill more of their leadership, that means it's going to be harder for the Islamic Republic to effectively make decisions in an event of the uprising of the Iranian people. So far, so good, right? So, but the reason why that's not enough, even though it will weaken the Islamic Republic, the reason why not that might not be enough is that it doesn't take that much money and manpower to get machine guns and shoot it into crowds of unarmed civilians, right? So it will weaken the Islamic Republic, but not to the point where you could bring millions of Iranians into the streets and topple the regime. It only takes a few thousand people with machine guns to be able to do that. It might be enough for the uprising to happen, but it also might not be. Okay, so far also so good. So what we're suggesting is that strategy needs to be, needs to be paired with arming the Iranian people and not just weakening the Islamic Republic. You need a strategy of maximum pressure on the Islamic Republic, but also maximum support for the Iranian people. And the most effective support that the Iranian people could get right now is weapons, but not just in the form of guns, in my opinion, and Jeffrey here and other people here, also in the form of drones. Um, so with that being said, like, do you like? Can you also say, like, did I answer your question, or if you have any follow up questions, or did I? Is there anything so far that I haven't addressed?
I think you answered the question.
Mm.
I'm kind of wondering how long this will take, but I know that nobody knows the answer to that. So
Yes. So now that I answer your question, I also have to mention that when it comes to arming the Iranian people, just giving them weapons is not going to work. If you just drop weapons in Iran, you're probably going to
mm,
be arming the IRGC. There needs to be filtering, there needs to be training, and there needs to be management of what happens after. And all of that can only be done with coordination and leadership of Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team. Like if the Americans or Israelis or Ukrainians are planning anything, it obviously should go through Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team. We know that already, but the Americans and Israelis tried a different path, which was with separatist groups, and it backfired. The only way that this could work is if it's done with the coordination of Prince Reza Pahlavi's team. So that's an important. Every time we discuss this, I think that should also be mentioned in addition, because if we keep pushing for that but we don't add that, it could actually backfire.
um, but now I also wonder if any protests starting now because of the economic conditions were to lead to a mass uprising, if they were to escalate, is that something to kind of be afraid of because they might get mass slaughtered now if it happened now?
I mean, the fear of mass slaughter and execution is always there. It's always there, and it's the thing is that we can't whether the Iranian people do the next uprising before they get armed or not. Like, I see so many people saying that we should tell them not to do it anymore until they get armed because it would be suicide. I hear that a lot, right? And I also understand that that is very worrying. And probably, yes, probably if we see an uprising again before they get armed, we're probably going to see another mass slaughter. The thing is that I don't see. I don't know if we could make tell the Iranian people what to do from outside Iran. I think the only person that could tell them that is Princess of Pahlavi, and so far, Princess of Pahlavi has told them that the situation is not right for an uprising because there will be mass slaughter. So your concern is actually has been communicated by Princess of Pahlavi, by President Trump, by Prime Minister Netanyahu, and by Admiral Cooper, uh, the head of CENTCOM. All of them have recommended to the Iranian people that based on their information, now it's not the time. And instead of, and one thing I do on the Persian channel with my audience in Iran, I usually tell them that I don't see myself in a position to tell you what you do, but I do repeat Prince Reza Pahlavi's commands and his call to actions to the Iranian people. That's what I do. So if I want to tell the Iranian people that is, I think right now is not the time. Instead of telling them that, I would just refer back to the leader that they have chosen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you got your audio fixed because these are very good questions. I appreciate these. These are really good questions. Thank you for asking them. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, welcome in, Corey. Thank you for being here. We have one response, which is monkey.
Yes, another thing that I would like to say about this, there's two factors here that we're not that maybe I had to go away for a second. Maybe you covered, but one of those factors is the strikes. The strikes seem to be ongoing. They seem to be escalating. They seem to be moving more north. I mean, as they escalate and move north, once there is a larger campaign, and I believe this is something that has been in the works and will continue to happen, once that's over, once they get hit the hardest, that would be, I would say, probably if it happens and we have no control over it, if it would happen then, that would probably be better. I would remind people that last time there was also strikes to the point where you could hit one person in a car. There were strikes where you could hit a checkpoint. There were very pinpoint strikes. So I think air cover would be important, is what I would say, and not trying to control anyone in Iran, but I remember very clearly that there were some people in the Artesh. I'm not going to say how many or have any idea, but if those people who are better trained had, were armed against the IRGC, were actively fighting the IRGC, and they got support, that might change things a little. But because I don't know much about the Artesh and how loyal they might be, some have pledged loyalty, but I don't know how many all of them would be. That would be another factor because they are trained, or at least better trained than your average civilian. Those are things that I would watch, but I would prefer waiting for the right time because of what I've communicated is the incredible potential loss, right? Like when you lose 52,000 people, you don't know how many doctors you have in there or their sons that could have been doctors. You don't know how many geniuses, how many inventions could have been made. You don't know how many breakthroughs in science and technology were lost there because of the massacre. So it is an incalculable loss to have that much loss of life. And because Americans have in our culture this way of thinking that each individual life and its potential is almost sacred, we see the loss of life as something that's the least desirable thing. We would try to avoid it as much as possible. You saw how much we would expend to go get one pilot. We would sacrifice planes, we would burn things, we would do almost anything to sacrifice almost any material things to save one life. And you got to understand that people in the administration and in the American culture do see any sacrifice as like a very disheartening thing. So you will understand our apprehension to see any life being wasted. Like it would have, when it happens, we would want it to be have it the most effect. That's why we are apprehensive of any, you know, uh, firing from the hip, right? Taking and doing these things without thinking them thoroughly.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.